theyeshiva.net.
So we'll continue inside today. 3 lines from the bottom, page 239. Kuf Chaf, column 1, Torah, right? Haisafis Megillas Esther. Kuf Chaf, Daf Kuf Chaf, column 1 on the bottom, 3 lines from the bottom, or page 239. Hanim Shalhu. After explaining at length the mushel with the chaff and the straw and the kernel and the husk protecting the kernel throughout growth, and then maturity allows the kernel to be independent. So he says, Hanim Shalhu, all this was the mushel, the nimshal is when a person reaches maturity, spiritual maturity, then he becomes connected in the core essence of Hashem, in the atzmus, in the core, in the essence mamash of Hashem. And also kol hataybe v'hasagas, all the reasons, the flavors, and the comprehensions. Shahayu shomer lepri, which previously was a custodian and a guard for the fruit, ptelim, now they become nullified, v'noiflim, and they fall away. Because now one touches the concept, the reality, the experience of matzasa eslavavai neman that we spoke before, of complete oneness. The same is true just as it's true mitzad avoid of the person, the same is true also above, milmayla lamata, from Hashem's perspective, so to speak. The bitchil in the beginning of avoid nas is harusa delayla b'chinas geyus v'isnasos, as we explained, as a result of the person's own geyus, own sense of exaltedness, sense of aloofness, sense of value, of dignity. It's mirrored also above. Kavayachal Ramal Kol Goyim Hashem, Hashem's sense of exaltedness, to disregard and to separate negativity from the world. But even though mitzad infinity, you could say everything, nothing occupies a space like the spider. So that's all in the stage 1. Even above, it's called the chaff and the straw, so that the divine light should not fall, should not get lost through the moldiness and the heat, which basically Hashem's light can be manipulated through chitzonim, through the externals, through the clippers, through the shells. It can be used in a counterproductive way. It's yinikas achitzonim, means when the external forces nurture, they get their nurture like sucklings, they're yoinik, they suck from the milk of the divine, and it's used in their own way. And the light, therefore, ends up in mold, it ends up being destroyed, manipulated. So therefore, you need the divine chaff, so to speak, to protect itself. But once the light that was planted, the Ozer has now matured like the kernel. The Zohar sometimes calls it Tzaddik Chai Almin, alive in all the worlds. Ein Sarich L'Bchinas Moitz V'Teven, one does not need the straw. Because indeed, as long as the pile has not been smoothed after the complete separation from between the kernels and the chaff, there's still the exemption of meiser, of tithing, as explained. This will be enough for he who understands.
So when you think that this unit, it doesn't become elevated; it just absorbs.
Right.
It's a holding tank.
Right. Yeah. It can be manipulated. It can just use it for its own benefits. So you need...
So there's a use value.
Exactly.
It doesn't elevate it.
Right. V'zeo, and that's the pshat that Talmud Chacham tzarich liyis by gasus shminish b'shminis. So we now conclude. That's the meaning that the Talmud Chacham needs. That sense of haughtiness, an eighth of an eighth. What's an eighth of an eighth? Uchelik samach daled. because of course 8 times 8 is 64. So an eighth of an eighth represents a chelik samach dalet, but v'loy chelik samach gimel. It's not a 63rd part; it's a 64th part, because 63rd part v'hu gas. The word samach gimel, which is 63, is the same letters like the word gas, which means arrogant, thick, dense, coarse. But in the 64th fraction part, there is an element of gasos, of haughtiness. And that's what the Gemara means, that it crowns him like the beard of the stalk, crowning and protecting the kernel in the stalk. Pirush ma'atrele. It crowns him. Why crowns him? Ba'atara. It's a crown. The geyus v'isnasus umizen nishmar mikol davar, because this actually protects him and encompasses him and protects him from all detrimental behavior, which is all based on real sense of self-value. V'haylechum is gadol, so the person can grow deeper and deeper until they're ready for removing the chaff. But you can't remove the chaff too early. And the same is mirrored also above. The light that's planted for the tzaddik, the light of Hashem, is protected with the atara, the crown of Geus Elyon, of divine exaltedness. Hashem Malach Geus Lavesh. Hashem is king. He dresses himself with exaltedness. He puts on a lavush of Geus. What he puts on a lavush of Geus? A lavush is like a chaff. It's a lavush. The beard, the brittle, the stiff brittle around the kernels are a lavush. That's what it is. So Monsey is a lavush, and that's why you take off the lavush and you take off the garments, because you want the real material, the core of the material. So Hashem Malach Geus Lavish. He dresses himself in a sense of exaltedness. That lavush is necessary as long as there are the klipos that want to nurture from the infinite energy, which, because it's so beyond, so therefore darkness doesn't occupy space, light doesn't occupy space. So you have to, so to speak, restrict it only to righteous and good places. That's all the beginning of Avodah.
The klipa exists so that we'll have free will?
Right. Yeah.
So Yaakov was doing with the stones and everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Vav. V'zehu, and this is the deeper meaning of a pasuk, Kisir kav al susecha markavoisecha Yeshua. One of the prophets of the Jewish people who lived, it's not so clear when he lived, but he probably lived during the first Beis Hamikdash, although there are other opinions. His name was Chavakik. Chavakik is one of the shorter prophets from the Trei Yasser, from the 12 shorter prophecies in the Sefer, the book of Tanakh called Trei Yasser. And Chavakik speaks about Jewish history, and he glorifies the past, and he describes, he says to Hashem, Kisir kaval susecha, when you ride on your horses, markavaisecha Yeshua, your chariots have become a Yeshua, a source of salvation, of help. And the Mefarshim interpret it as referring to different stages of Jewish history, because the beginning of that pasuk says, do you get angry at rivers? Habinaharim chara pecha. Evrasecha beyam. Do you get angry at rivers? Does your wrath extend to the sea? Why would you, when you split the sea, or the Jordan, the Yarden, when the Jews had to go through the Yam or go to Eretz Yisrael, they went through the Jordan and the Jordan split. It's like you're angry at the sea. Obviously you weren't angry at the sea. It's just you wanted to help the Jewish people. And that's where he concludes. He says, when you ride, kisirkav, when you ride on your horses, your chariot has become a salvation. So many interpret it as the moment of Kriyas Yamsuf, or other moments that were similar. But what is the metaphor? Hashem riding on horses. We know Parah was riding on horses. And it says, Sus v'roichvoi roma vayam. What's this metaphor of Hashem riding on a horse? And your chariot becomes a source of salvation. Susecha, hein beis pamim sus. He doesn't say your singular horse. Your horse is in the plural. Not suscha, but susecha. That's two horses. Dahainu, Beis Pa'amim Sag. Now the word sus, here's going to be an interesting numerical value. The word sus is Samach, Vav, Samach, right? So Dahainu Beis Pa'amim Sag. So that is twice Sag. Because sus is, Samach is 60, and the other Samach is 60, so you have two Samachs. So you have 120, and then you have a Vav, which is 6, so you have 126. Samach Gimel is 63. How much is 2 times Samach Gimel? 2 times 63. Again, 163 and 63 is 126. So the word sus, which is 126, is 2 times the word sag. We explained sag is the same letters like gas, the haughtiness, the arrogance. That's why the Gemara says he has to have an eighth of an eighth. Why an eighth of an eighth? Why not a seventh of a seventh? What's the cheshbon eighth of an eighth? Only samach daled, a 64th. 63rd already would be too big. So twice sag, samach gimel, or gas is sus. Now, on a deeper level, there's going to be now reference to some this particular perek is going to be very mystical and Kabbalistic in terms of phraseology. So even if you don't get all the points, it's fine, because it's difficult, it's complex. I'll try to explain, at least we should get the perspective. Even if you don't get every detail, don't be discouraged, because it's hard stuff. Kishem sag de kedusha yadua shu havaya b'milui aleph. And if you don't understand something, you can ask. There's a name of Hashem known as Shem Sag, the name of Sag. It's Havaya b'milui aleph, which means, in the writings of Jewish mysticism, of Kabbalah, and Chassidus, Kisvei Harizal, Teres Hasoid, you'll often refer to 4 names of Hashem. They're known as Shem Ma, Shem Sag, Shem Ban, Shem Av. Shem Ma means the name of 45, Shem Ban the name of 52, Shem Sag the name of 63, which is relevant here. Shem Av the name of 72. Where did these names come from? It's basically 4 ways of how to write out Hashem's name of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey when you write it out fully. Yud and Hey and then Vav and Hey, which is Yud Ke Vav Ke, is 26. But what if you write it out fully? Which means Yud, you don't just spell as a Yud, but as you pronounce it, Yud, right? Yud is Yud Vav Daled when you write it out fully, when you say it. When we write a Yud, so for convenience sake, we just write a Yud and we make a little mark. We write a Hey, you write a Hey, you write. But if you really want to write out Hey, right? How do you spell Hey? Hey, Vav, Vav, or Hey. There's 4 ways of spelling it, and that makes 4 names: 45, 52, 63, 72. So, for example, if you spell it Yud Vav Dalet, Hey Aleph, Vav Aleph Vav, Hey Aleph, Yud Hey Vav Hey, all with Alephs, then you'll end up with the 45. And you can see it. I mean, you may want to trust me, but I'll show it to you. Yud Vav Dalet is 20, right? Yud is 10, Vav is 6, 4. So 10 and 6 and 4 is 20. Hey Aleph would be 6, so you have 26. The last Hey will again be 6, so you have 26 and 6 is what? 32. So how are we getting from 32 to 45? From 32 to 45 is 13, right? Vav, Aleph, Vav. So you got 45. Then there is the way you write it out, and you have Shem Ban, 52. Then there's the way you write it out, and you have Shem Av, 72. In order to get Shem Sag, he says, is Havaya b'milui Aleph, which means that it's Yud, and then Hey with a Yud, Hey Yud, because you could spell Hey Aleph, Hey Yud. It's all accurate spellings. Hey, right? Hey. How do you spell Hey? With a Y usually, right? So that's Hey Yud. You can also spell Vav, Vav Vav, Vav Aleph Vav, Vav Yud Vav. So Shem Av is when everything is Yud. Shem Sag is, you have Hey Yud, but you have the Vav, Vav Aleph Vav, and then you'll end up having 63. Yeah, I think that's how it works. Let me just make sure. Yud would be 20. Hey Yud would be 15, so that would be 35. Another 15, the last Hey Yud would be 50. And now we need another 13. So it's Vav, Aleph, Vav, which is 63. So that's still. If you'll replace that Aleph with a Yud, Vav, you'll end up having your 72. So that's how it works. Whenever you see Shema. Now this is not just, a cute way of getting different numbers. The point is that there are different ways. In other words, there are different ways Hashem communicates Yud Kei Vav Kei to the world.
Are there Kavanas that are associated?
Of course, a lot. And
was the Rashas the one?
Yeah, Siddur HaRashash, yeah. In Teres HaSoid, this is a big topic. So every name represents something. For example, Ma is the gematria of Adam. Adam is 45. Ban, 52, is the gematria of Behema. Beis Hey Mem Hey is 52. So it becomes extremely significant what it represents. Why there's an Aleph, why there's a Hey, why there's a Yud. Yeah. So it's not just it works on paper with numbers, it's a representation of a particular manifestation of God's name in the world. 4 different methods. Here we're talking about Samach Gimel, Sag, shape Sag. So he says, Hu Havaya b'milui Aleph. When he says Havaya b'milui Aleph means, I don't mean everything is b'milui Aleph, because the Hey is b'milui Hey Yud. The Hey is filled with a Yud, not with an Aleph. By Ma, it's filled with an Aleph. By Sag, it's filled with a Yud. But V'hainu kasher Vav, the Shem Havayu b'milui Aleph. The Vav of the Yud Kei Vav Kei comes with an Aleph. It gets filled with an Aleph. You can write Vav just as Vav, and you can write Vav, Aleph, Vav. V'haremez bazeh. The intimation is Inyan l'bchinas Roimimus. Lam shachel yoina. Bevav the Shem Havaya, shlo yum shachar l'mishen roi. It represents exaltedness. As we said, gas, sag, means arrogance, haughtiness. Gas saruach means haughtiness. So this is kivayachal, so to speak, the haughtiness of the divine. Hashem malach geus lavish, the exaltedness. Lam shachel yoina bevav de shem havaya. It represents the concept of roimimus, of exaltedness, gas. For the hamshachel yoina bevav de shem havaya. Vav is like a flow of energy, like a line that comes down, that the divine flow, that the light, which is infinite, everyone can get access from it. The light should only go to places that are worthy of it. And that's what the might says, that's what the straw is. This is sag in holiness. Which is the word gas when the letters are reversed. This is the first horse that goes upward. Exaltedness is basically a form of going up from a lower place to a higher place. The person feels higher. This experience by Hashem comes from the person's avodah. The Talmud Chacham Talmud Chacham exalts his soul. He picks himself up. You look at yourself and you say, I'm not nothing. I'm not valueless. And this is the beginning of Avodas Hashem, for a person to be able to truly lift himself up, to be able to appreciate his infinite and indispensable value and dignity. Menasiyas nafshe, to lift up your soul. As we're going to see, what's a horse? A horse, those who go horseback riding or went horseback riding, or were well experienced with horseback riding, know there's something unique about the horse. The person gets on the horse, and the horse can take the person to heights, and we'll soon see also lows, that are extremely, extremely steep. And the horses they're good at this, they're made at this. In ancient times and even in contemporary times, people who deal with horses, there's a unique relationship between the rider and the horse. Horses are extremely sensitive animals. They know if you're a leader or you're a follower. They know if you're in a mood of leadership or you're in a mood of fear. There's people who get on a horse and they're saying vidui, and they already write their last will. And then there's people who have, I don't want to say became one with their horse, but there's an integration there. There's a relationship. And the horse knows it immediately. And the horse is a follower. That's what a horse is supposed to be. And yet the horse takes you to places that you could never go on your own. The heights, the mountains and slopes, not cliffs. It's not a mountain goat, but the slopes that it goes with the speed and alacrity as the horse runs and gallops is extraordinary. Spiritually, psychologically, the horse then represents lifting up the person, lifting up the soul. So sus is 2 times gas. We'll soon see why 2 times. Because there's the one below and the one above. Like we said, there's the gases here, and then that creates in heaven a similar reality. That there shouldn't be Avraham, Yotzim Imenu Yishmael. So he says, Va'azai Nemar, that's what the Navi says, Ki sirkav al susecha, merkavaisecha Yeshua. When you ride on your horses, your chariot, which of course the horse leads, the chariot, merkavaisecha becomes a Yeshua, Sha Yeshua miyuchedes leknesses Yisrael bilvad v'lo yikablu arishayim mitam hanal. In the chamber of the king, you can have spider webs. Why? If a person would come into the chamber of the king, an enemy, he would fight him. But the spider web, it's not noticeable. It's so small it becomes insignificant. Lagabe Hashem's absolute infinity. What's the difference between the tzaddik and the rasha, between the light and the darkness? It would seem completely insignificant. And therefore, in a paradoxical way, they can get nurtured. Like we said, Avram Avinu was so big, Yishmael can also hang around. Because he's so not small. And when you're so big, when you're so large, when you're so infinite, spider webs can gather because of your bigness. So when the Talmud Chacham lifts himself up, Vayikach Hashem also lifts himself up. What does it mean he lifts himself up? He develops that husk, that chaff, to protect the oil, that it shouldn't go to the wrong places. It shouldn't go to Rishayim. Sometimes big people, inadvertently, but negative elements could get nurture from them. Not because they're small, because they're big. If they would be small, they would be more nitty-gritty, more picky, more discriminative. Sometimes very, very big people, they just see the big picture. And in that process, a lot of small things can happen. Because they're so big. There's a special, you need to zoom in. You need a Maamer. There's zooming out and zooming in. And each has a tremendous advantage. Zooming out gives you the full picture. But zooming in then allows you, to nitpick. Literally nitpicking. Now, who has time for nitpicking? Unless you're a nitpicker. Good luck. And you see this even, how people deal with money, how people deal with everything. There are people, as the Rambam says, they're by nature just very stingy. It's always zooming in. Like they notice everything. They notice every mistake in the world. And then there's people who notice almost nothing. It's like, hey, wake up. You got to be grounded. And each one has a beauty to it. When they're married with each other, it's lebedik. So this is kivayachol. So there's the gas on 2 levels. Sus is twice gas. There's the sus that picks you up, and therefore you says, no, I don't want this dirt. I'm not going to let this in my life. It's a little thing. It's something I put into myself, something I see. You discriminate. You get rid of all the dirt because you see your value, you see your dignity. You don't want to have any poison in your life. That's number 1 gas. And number 2 gas, sus is twice gas. Number 2 gas is, it creates the same thing lamaila, above. Hashem Malach is lavish. So when you have Merkaveisecha Yeshua, it becomes a Yeshua leknesses Yisrael and not Rishayim. V'zel sus v'roich v'rama vayam. That's pshat by Kriyas Yamsov. What did the Jews say? Hashem took this horse and the rider, Rama vayam. What's Rama vayam? Yesh b'firish Rama beis inyanim. In Lashon Kodesh and in Aramaic, Aramuya Marme has 2 interpretations. One is inyan roimamus, exaltedness, aleph inyan hashlacha, throwing. Rama could come from the word ram, aloof, right? Ramal kol goyim, exalted, roimamus. But Rama can also mean hurled, throwing, hashlacha. Sus v'roich v'rama, v'akoil inyan echad. The lefisha they has susu misraimim. Through the horse, one is uplifted. The horse takes you to heights where you cannot. You could try to hike. But at some point you're going to get exhausted. The horse simply has that staying power, that endurance, that strength, and that alacrity. unless it's in a bad mood, because you put it in a bad mood, or it's not feeling well. But a horse that's functioning well, you get uplifted. Ki goiga. So we say, Ashira Lashem ki goiga. What's goiga, says the Targum? Geya al geva sonaya. He's exalted above the arrogant ones. Ki goiga. He's exalted above the arrogant ones. Ramal kol goyim. Then we say Rama yot chabal yechazoyin kanal. The pasuk in Yeshaya quoted earlier in Perek Gimel that when your hand is uplifted, Bal Yechazoyin, the Rishayim will not see the energy. So the chariots of Parei and his army were thrown and cast into the sea. Commotion is based on one reason. From this sense of exaltedness, there's a concept of hakpada. Hakpada means you nitpick, you're makbid. I do not want that something that's unworthy should get yinika, should get nurture and chiyus. And then if it's not necessary, he should get from me. V'kanal v'dal. And therefore, through the exaltedness, you had the Rama, the hurling in of Parai, who cannot now get Yinika from Kedusha, cannot nurture from holiness. Why? Because the leaks were sealed. All the leaks that were, sometimes a person has a lot of leaks in life, they were sealed. And that always comes from a certain sense of exaltedness. So your life becomes airtight. Right? In a person's life, sometimes there's a time you have to go to your day and go through your day and see where the leaks are. There's an hour here, there's a half an hour there, there's an hour there. Here I lie, here I gossip, here I go to websites I shouldn't go to, here I stop waste my time and do nothing. Here I get stuck in politics, here I get stuck in this issue. Yeah, whatever it is. And then, you see when people are exalted, sometimes to certain positions, they can't afford that anymore. And their life becomes airtight. Not airtight in the sense of uptight. That's the opposite extreme. That's the difference. It's hard for big people to be uptight. They're not uptight. They're more open. They see the bigger picture. They're not detailed oriented. The problem is, right, when you're not airtight, uptight people, nothing passes them. Literally, no. It's like a toll. Every car that goes by, I notice, and you got to pay your fee. And say kena meshigamach. I mean, you can go crazy from it. Because can't you ignore some stuff? And there's a virtue in life to that. So it's a very sensitive combination. And the Balatanya here is saying that it's basically called a chaff. It's basically protecting the kernel. In other words, it's not to become uptight. It's order to be able to make sure that the energy is going in the right places. Because with big people, you see sometimes with their children, very big people, sometimes their children suffer a lot. Because they don't know, a father is not about being global. A father is about being local, right? And sometimes when fathers become global, it's very nice for the rest of the world, but not for the people who need, they just need you to sit on the floor and play ball, huh? Monopoly, okay. It's becoming local, it's becoming small, it's restricting your energy. So that's the moit, that's the chaff, the lavush, that restricts the energy, yeah.
What's the name at the end
of he says chuli, so you have to finish the sentence on your own. So you have to use your imagination here. I think what he's saying is, I also got stuck. And then it's not, hechrich means necessary. The word hechrich in Lashon Kodesh, like bal korchach atachai. It's not necessary that from infinite energy all the klippas will get nurture, because there was the kisirkav al susecha. There was the sus, which is twice sag, twice gas. Your gasus creates gasus above. When a person lifts himself up, all the worlds get uplifted. Kavayachad the Rebbeinu Shalom himself, so to speak, lifts himself up. Ram al kol goyim. As the Navi says, Yodecha Rama, and then Baal Hashem Rama Yotcha, and then Baal Yechazoyin. V'zehu sha'amar Haman. And this is the deeper meaning of Haman, who tells Achashverosh, Yaviu levush malchus. When Achashverosh wants to reward the man who was kind to him and saved his life, so Haman suggests, let them bring the royal garment. And he suggests the royal crown. He suggests all of the royal accompaniments, including Sus asher rachav alav hamelech, the horse on which the king rides. And take this man and place him on the horse, dressed up in the royal garments, and let somebody lead him through the streets of Shushan and say, Kacha, yeyasel ish asher hamelech afetz bikaroi. That was a great Hapurim. This is what should be done to the man whom the king wants to honor, who the king wants to glorify. Now, on the most basic level, we all know what happens. Haman is just trying to have this come to him, because who does the king want to honor besides me? And in turn, it's one of the Purims, it's one of the Napaychu, is one of the transformations where he ends up doing this for Mordechai, his arch enemy, the man he's trying to get rid of and kill. But now we're going to describe it from a more spiritual point of view. The Gemara says a fascinating thing. Pirush. Stama melech sheniska b'Megillas Esther miramaz hakavana lemelech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Chazal tell us, whenever it says ha-melech in Megillas Esther, just the king, it's a hint. Literally it means the king Achashverosh. But it's a remez, it's a hint for melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu, for Hashem. So when it says sus asher rachav alav ha-melech, the horse on which the king rides, it's also intimating a deeper meaning, a deeper interpretation. Hashem. Ulekach nikra melech stam. That's what the Gemara says it, because that's why he's really called HaMelech, just the king. Why? Mipnei shehu melech kloli. Leklolis kolai shtalshlus datzilus bri yitzir asiyah k'meshakasu malchuscha malchus kololam. He's called the king, because the king, it represents the king that is a king in every situation and in every place and in every reality and in every experience. The king. It's not the king of Persia or the king of Denmark or the king of Great Britain, the king of England. But rather, we're talking about HaMelech, the king. In other words, it encompasses all of Hishtalshalus, all of the worlds. Malchuscha, your Malchus extends Kol Eilamim, in every situation, all the worlds, all realities. And here the concept of sus asher rachav alav hamelech. There's the horse upon which the king rides. There's such a horse. Which king? HaMelech, the Melech. The Melech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the horse on which he rides. What is the meaning of this? There's going to be some references to Maamer Chazal here with mystical interpretations. I'm going to go through it. I want to get to the main point. V'inyan shamelech hazeh roichav al sus hainu mashamar razal. The Gemara says in Maseches Avodah Zarah Daf Gimel, the Gemara asks, what does Hashem do at night? First he discusses what he does by day, then he says, what does he do at night? So one of the opinions is, listen to what Hashem does every night. He goes horseback riding. That's what the Gemara says. Avodah Zarah Daf Gimel.
It's like,
what else should he do? Huh?
when it's like where?
Good question. By every person. The same concept of horseback riding. Ma avad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu roichev al kruf kal shaloi. He has a very light horse, meaning, the Cossacks would have the real horses. It's a light horse. It's a kruf kal. Kruv is a chariot, a merkava, right? The word kruv. Kal means it's light. Light here means it's a flit. It's easy. It's not heavy. It's not lethargic. There are runners and there are runners. There are horses and there are horses. Those who know horses, there's a sus and there's a sus. There's a sus and there are kratzes, They're kratzes, like people in Shul a lot of time. Kratzt. He get to mikveh and then he has to eat soup and then his cholent and then his tayameha. Yeah, they used to say in Yiddish, Ayid Zuntig tracht Montig, was wird sein Dienstig. Mittwoch tracht, Donnerstag, schon Erev Shabbos, darf schon nicht gehen zu der Arbeit. There's a Jew, he's thinking of going to work. Says a Jew Sunday thinks on Monday. What should he do on Tuesday? Wednesday he thinks already it's Thursday. Friday's Erev Shabbos. Forget. Let's just call it a week, right? A kruf kal means a light chariot. So what does Hashem do at night? The Gemara says he goes riding on this light chariot, which flies. It gallops through 18,000 worlds. And of course the Gemara has a pasuk. The Ksiv, it says in Tehillim Samachas, Rechev Elokim, the chariot of Hashem is Riboy Sayim. Riboy Sayim is 20,000. Alfei Shinon. But 2,000 are shinon. The Gemara says shinon is the same letters like she'enon. 2,000 you have to subtract, so you're left with 18,000. Now, obviously, here you have a classic case where you can't understand this Gemara without appreciating the world of metaphor, the world of parables. So, Pirush, one level of understanding this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hainu B'chinas Hamshachim Min HaHelem Legilui Me Olam V'ad Olam Ulekach Nichra Kadosh Baruch Hu Me Alma Deskasi Lama Desgali. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a combination of two words, HaKadosh and Baruch Hu. Kadosh means aloof, holy, sacred, sublime. Baruch is grafted. Bracha is in Mishnayos Hamavriches Hagefen, is you bend the tree. It's Hamshacha. Even you have in Hebrew a brecha is a pool. Why is it called brecha? Because the water from the source is now gathered. It's drawn into a pool, into a cavity, into a cistern, into a bird. So HaKadosh is Baruch Hu, is Hamshacha from Helem to Gilui. L'kach nicher me'alma de iskasya, from a concealed state to a revealed state. V'liyoisich b'chinas Kadosh amuvdol b'chinas Helem. V'hu balidei Gilui, since it's something that it's essentially beyond, to bring it out, l'kach ha'dugmu kinyan ha'rechiva al sus. So the example for this by Chazal is always horseback riding. Why? Shaydei rechiva zu hoylech ha'melech u'mizgala b'chutz l'kol ein raya. Historically, we know when the king or the general or the commander wanted to, well, we would say show off. Here it's not showing off, but he would want to display the valor of the country, the glory of the army. What would he do? Yeah, all the paintings, Napoleon and George Washington and all great leaders, whether benevolent ones or dictators. But the artist always understood you got to paint them on the horse. Yeah, Putin always... Putin has a lot of pictures of horseback riding without a shirt. What? Why? It represents the might of the country, what you represent, and in a way that everybody sees it. You can't do this in the privacy of your room. So that's the way it comes out in physical, mundane realities. But the metaphor is that the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh is Kadosh Amuvdal. It's infinitely beyond. Baruch is coming out, Hamshacha, accessing it. So the great mashal for this is riding on a horse. Kach l'mayla, hiksiv hinei Hashem roichev al av kal. The Navi Yeshaya says Hashem is riding on a light cloud. Once again, the cloud is light. That's why the Gemara uses the expression kruf kal in Avodah Zarah Dav Gimel, a light chariot. Upidish kruf kal. One of the interpretations in the light chariot, Hainu b'chinas Malchus, that's shamayla mayin nukvim in shamas. What makes it light is a divine world known as Malchus, the quality of Malchus of Atzilus, which is the lowest sphere, the lowest characteristic of Atzilus, shamayla, which uplifts man. Mayin nukvin is the feminine water, is the avodah of neshamas of all the souls. V'nikra kruf klal. It's called a light chariot, like the horse relative to the rider. There are two horses. You ride on your horses. Why two? We explained that a horse it lifts up a person to places he can't reach on his own. But here we have the second horse, which also takes you down to places you can't go on your own. Horseback riders know that when you have a good horse who runs, there's two different experiences. Aleph, alayasim el mata lamayla. Beis, yiridasim el maila lamata. Number one is the horse taking you upward. You're on the bottom, you get onto that horse, and in seconds, you're up that slope, you're up that mountain. If you would have hiked, I don't know how long it would have taken you. And on the horse, you're up there. And it goes higher and higher and higher and higher and doesn't tire fast. But then there's the opposite. Going down to places where the horse can take you with such speed and such depth that you couldn't do on your own. Or it would only come with tremendous effort and time. That's Yiridas. V'hainu beis pa'amim. Sag. And that's the 2 times sag. Aleph, oile b'mailas harebimus v'hageyus kanal, v'achakach yored v'nimshach lamata mata. There is the going up of the sus, that's one element, and then there's accessing it, coming down. When he says kisirkav al susach, he speaks about both. Aleph, binyan hayirida v'hagilui, coming out, the manifestation, the revelation. That's the riding on the light chariot. And ascending. And that's where the Gemara says he goes into 18,000 worlds. There's Kruf Kal, which represents coming down, so it's called a light chariot. And then there's the going up in the 18,000 worlds. What's 18,000? Generally, we speak of four worlds: Atzilus and Bri Yitzir Asiyah. Zel b'derech klal, aval b'derech prat chay alafim heim. Generally, we speak of four worlds. Specifically, there are 18,000. V'yeshnam lamayla me'atzilus, or lamata me'atzilus. They exist above Atzilus, lower than Atzilus. V'yitachin lashon shot. The word shot, flying. Bein ba'aliyah me'atzilus, lamayla me'atzilus. Bein me'yiridim me'atzilus la'olamus. Whether you're going higher, you're going lower, you can always use the word shot. Shaba'alma de nukve v'hu b'bchinas shema l'kim zeh sha'amar b'pasuk rechev eloikim ribasayim alfi shina dainu yutches elef dari 18,000 lines kumashakas kumashnizbaya b'sifri HaKabbalah. As all this is explained in the Svarim of Kabbalah v'Daila Meva.
Sounds like there's a distinction between the horse, using the horse to go down, and falling off the horse.
Of course, you don't want to fall off the horse. We're talking about somebody who knows how to horseback, knows how to horse. Somebody who becomes integrated with the horse. So the horse is not you. The horse is always distinct. But the horse becomes a complete conduit for the person. Real horseback riding is, there's almost complete symmetry between the rider and the horse. Real horseback riders know this. There's such a deep relationship, so to speak, between the person and the horse. It's like the horse becomes an extension of the person's power.
So the muscle is...
So sus is twice gas. Sus is twice gas. Because the gas below creates the gas above, always. Here there's two horses. Kisekav al susecha. There's the horse going up. The exaltedness that we spoke about. The exaltedness. He says the 18,000 worlds. Yeah. And then there's the horse going down, which in the spiritual metaphor, which means the revelation, the way godliness comes out, the way that leader comes out on his horse to display the power, to display the glory, the way the exaltedness comes out. It comes out, which, as we explained above, sus v'roichvoi rama vayam, right? As he gets uplifted, so then Pare could be thrown into the sea because the klippos will not receive nurture. So Haman says, Yaviu levush malchus and besus asherochav alav hamelech. Haman is looking for the horse that the king is riding on. Haman wants the horse that the king is riding on. As the Gemara says, Hamelech refers to Hashem. So this was pretty little mystical, abstract. But let's now see the continuation of this, where it's brought down.
What's the horse from below to above? How the concept of Gilui from above?
Right, so that's the sense of exaltedness. Like we said, the horse lifts you up. It's when the person could lift himself up. And so to speak, Hashem dresses up in that garment of exaltedness.
So from below to above, it's a sense of exaltedness.
Right.
That a person can have.
Right.
With his dignity.
Right.
But what's the sense in the other direction? The sense from Hashem
is the Gilui v'hamshacha lamata. The opposite direction is revealing it below, bringing it down that the worlds can feel it, the worlds can experience it.
Is it like what we were discussing in the previous Maamer, that in Tetzaveh we can also experience Hashem?
Right. Yeah.
They're both positive experiences?
Yeah.
Up and down?
Yeah. So he says, "Ulahavin in yidus sasherachavav malach sheyeshnei befrat bechal yom kedivreim zal hakadosh baruch hu roichev." What does all this mean? That there's a horse on which the king rides, and the Chazal say it happens every night. Every night Hashem is on a horse. How do we understand this? That's what he says. Kidivreim zal, it happens b'chol yom. The Gemara says every night he's on a horse. What is this? Should be a mitzvah to go horseback riding at night. To mimic Hashem, right? He dubbing with Rachel. What does this mean? We want to speak about every day, but what does this also mean for all of history, 6,000 years of the world? We see that in every generation and in every period of time, we see in every generation and in every period of time that godliness is revealed, also in our world, in our lowly, humble world, but in different ways. What does this mean? It's different ways. In the times of the Tanoim, hayabchinis gili alakuz b'Torah shebal peh, b'Mishnah v'Talmud, shaloi hayabchinis gili alakuz ba'ofen zeh, b'limud Torah shebal peh b'Torah shekadmula. In the generation of Tanoim, the chariot, the conduit through which godliness was revealed primarily was through Torah shebal peh. The revelation, the explanation, the deduction, the elaboration of the oral Torah, because that's when the whole Mishnah and the whole Talmud was developed, the time of the Tanoim. We're talking about towards the end of the second Beis Hamikdash, the first century before the Common Era, continuing for the next 4, 5, 6 centuries, or 7 centuries, when the whole Mishnah and Talmud were developed. So he says, there was that's where godliness came out. This type of level of godliness in Torah shebal peh did not exist in previous generations. Certainly in earlier generations, for example, the first Beis Hamikdash, there was also Torah shebal peh. Torah shebal peh comes from Moshe, and godliness was revealed through it. But by the Tanoim, it was an explosion. From Matan Torah, Jews have Torah shebal peh. How do you know that tefillin are black? Torah shebal peh. How do you know that schach in a sukkah is not the glass, or that you need a roof? Doesn't say in Chumash, it's Torah shebal peh. And how do we know that pre-Eitz Hadar on sukkahs is an esrik? It's Torah shebal peh. There's not a single mitzvah in Chumash that if without Torah shebal peh you can understand. In other words, nobody can argue that the Chumash is a serious document, divine, and not accept Torah shebal peh, because then it's a mockery. God is giving me a document and it's completely inaccessible. There's not a single mitzvah. Put something between your eyes. What? Maybe sushi? Toitafos. Yeah. Write it on the doorpost. I would take a pen and write things on my doorpost. There's not a single mitzvah that without Torah shebal peh you could make sense of. So if you say the whole thing, if there's those who would say that the Torah shebal peh is a divine document, it's divine. Torah shebal peh is human, it's made up by humans. Besides everything else, the logic of it is ridiculous because there's no Torah shebal without. So Torah shebal peh is part of Jewish history. It's part of the fabric of Torah, of Yiddishkeit. But what happened suddenly at the end of Bayis Sheni? Mishnayos, Talmud, the Tanoim, Amoraim, the brilliance, the depth, the infinity. So the Rebbe says something happened. That Hashem that time chose to reveal himself through this path. And as we're going to see, that's what we mean by the horse. The horse is, Susa Sherach V'Alamelech is the venue, the method of communication, of revelation. Just as that person gets out on the horse and comes out from hiding and emerges to the world, so this is one example of Gili Elikus. When it comes to other things, in other areas, not Torah shebal peh, in the first Beis Hamikdash, there was a more intense revelation of godliness in different ways. Prophecy. That didn't exist by Bayis Sheni, by the Tanaim and Amoraim. Tanaim and Amoraim, their experience, where did God come out? God came out through Torah, through Mishnah, Talmud, and the whole world that they lived in. In the Bayis Rishon, there was also Torah shebal peh, and God came out through it. You're having Gemara, things that David taught and Shlomo taught and Benayahu taught and different Sanhedrin taught. But it's a few but a few individual things. Suddenly there was literally a nuclear explosion. But in Bayis Rishon there were other things. Then there was Gili Elikus through Nevuah, prophecy. The Gemara says that there were Nevi'im Kiflayim Yotzim Mitzrayim. There were 1.2 million Jewish prophets. We only have 48 because they only wrote down the prophecies that were necessary l'doros for generations. 1.2 million prophets. Prophecy was then the way that God was being experienced. It was a time of nevuah. Later, it went in the world of Torah, but in Bayis Rishon it was nevuah. Nevuah meant the immediate, intimate experience of God. Experiential nevuah.
Is that through the meditative concept?
Yeah.
Jamos?
Yeah. Part of it. And that's why Avodah Zarah was so rampant in Bayis Rishon. Why? Because without an immediate experience of God, you weren't part of the club. You weren't part of the clique. The problem is, with Kedusha, you need discipline. You got to tame. You got to be airtight. So Avodah Zarah was basically reaching higher states of consciousness through techniques that didn't require moral discipline. Very important stuff. Today, it's reflected in all those who are doing weed and marijuana and drugs and getting stoned and inebriated in order to feel close. They don't want to do it through the path that takes work and discipline and real avodah. I want to fast high, I want to feel good, I want to numb my pain. In Bayis Rishon, that was Avodah Zarah. All their pagan orgies and everything they were involved in, it was ways of reaching higher states of consciousness without the tedious process that Nevuah requires, because it's Kedusha. Because there's no replacement for truth. There's no replacement for truth. As the expression is, Shkarim zayin da asach. Emes is nor einer. In other words, if I ask you, where were you last night at 11 o'clock? I should say, if your wife asks you, where you were last night at 11 o'clock. I don't mean you. I mean somebody, right? If you're going to lie, how many places were you last night in? 1 billion, 1 trillion, endless. If you're going to say the truth, you were in one place. Lies are infinite, so to speak. Not infinite, but there's a lot of diversity. Because it's not true. If it's true, it's one. So emes is always one. You can't forge emes. You can't replicate it. If it's replicated and forged, it's not the truth. So Bayis Rishon had its way of experiencing God. Nevuah. Bayis Sheni, that's Bayis Rishon. The end of Bayis Sheni, suddenly everything changed. Now the Gilui Elokus came out through Torah Shabbal Peh. He says, what do we see? There's different ways in which Hashem comes out. No two generations are ever similar. Extraordinary insight. Every generation, Hashem reveals himself in a different way. And you have to know what that venue is. You have to know what that channel is. Not that there's no other channels. There are always diverse channels. No channel ever gets stuffed up. But the primary place of truth, where you're going to find a lakus, where you're going to find godliness, every generation has its unique channels. This is Breitkeit to write this. Breitkeit. It's not just Bayis Rishon, Bayis Sheni, Tanaim. Afterwards, you see constantly changes. V'hu. B'mei ha'ga'oinim ha'yagili elokus b'inyan v'ifnachir k'may shahaya b'chinas gili elokus b'zman ha'poiskim ha'kadmoinim shachareim k'may ha'riv v'rambam ha'bali toisvus. The times of the Ga'oinim, you know how Jewish history works. You have the Tanoim, you have the Amirayim. The Amirayim ends in the 5th century. You have the last Rabbanon Sforoi, which goes to the era of the Ga'oinim. The Ga'oinim continues till the end of the 900s, and then you have the era of the Rishonim. So he says the Gilui Elokus during the Zman of the Ga'onim was in a different way. Then it came out in the Zman HaPoiskim that's after them, called the Kadmonim, the Rishonim, like the Rif, Rabbeinu Yitzchak Alphas from Fez, Morocco. It's called the Rabbi Yitzchak Alphas, the Rif. Or the Rambam, Maimonides. So the Rif is the 11th century. The Rambam is the 12th century. Balei HaTosfos is the 13th century and the 14th century. In every generation this changes. And even the last generation is very close to our time. This is being said in 1806, Tovkuf Samach Vav. So many different ways from generation to generation. Until these generations, the primary method in which godliness comes out is in the midst of Gemilas Chsadim, which means helping people, inspiring people, giving people. Okay. But this is in terms of generations. But it becomes more detailed. Yeshman ve'es prati. Every day is different. Sometimes every hour is different. There's an individual time. She'ikir gili alakusu b'tfilah. Now the main way in which godliness is revealed is through tefillah. V'yesh esus man prati b'Torah. There's an individual time when gili alakus is through Torah. V'yesh esus man b'mitzvah pratis. And then there's a time that gili alakus is through a mitzvah. V'hakoil urak b'chinas gilui achar gilui. Now these are all giluyim, manifestations. At this time, the main way to access the revelation of godliness is through this tool, through this method. In all of history, you're getting to one nekuda, one kavana, one point. The vessel changes. The light is always the same. The light of the Nevuah, and the light of Torah Shabbal Peh, and the light of Gemilas Chsadim, and the light of Tefillah. It's always the same, it's divine. But the keli, the vessel, to access it, changes. Changes in generations. It changes in a person's own generation. It changes within every person. A week, a year, a decade, a milieu, a chapter, a period in your life, and even in one day. And even from day to day, there's different, and one has to know, because this is often becomes such a source of frustration when we compare ourselves and say, they were so inspired. Why am I not so inspired? So we try to copy. We're gonna make a copy. So it becomes a play, it becomes a show. It says you can't copy. Elikus Hashem Elikim Chai, God is alive. And there's always a way in which Hashem could become manifested in the world and in life. As he says, V'zeu inyan rechiva sasus befrat b'chol yoyim b'chol eis v'shah. So he says, God is horseback riding. Every day is horseback riding. Not every day, every moment, every hour he's on a horse. Every hour he's on a horse. Why? V'gam b'chlal l'kama doros yachad eich she'iyah oifen agili minahelim be'eze kli. Sometimes it's a few generations. What's going to be the kli? What's going to be the horse? The kli. That's why the Navi says, Ki sirkav al susecha, merkavaisecha Yeshua, chavakay, peragimel. He says about Hashem, you ride on horses. The Gemara says, Avodah Zarah, the Navi Yeshaya says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shat bikruf kal shalai. What is all of this? This is the concept of roichev. Why is he roichev? He says, be'eze kli. What's going to be the kli? Shu rechivas hasus al derech mashal. Zel gam ken inyan shot b'chai elef oilam is befrat b'chol yom danu shatum is galasha. That's what the Gemara says. Every night he goes through 18,000 worlds. He's flying through 18,000 worlds. Meaning, in these worlds, he is nisgala. He is revealed, and you can't compare the horse from yesterday to the horse from today, the horse from an hour ago to the horse from now. You have to know what's the keli right now to touch truth. I can't replicate. I can't say, this yesterday, it was unbelievable. We're always trying to compare. And when it doesn't work, you feel either very guilty or you fake it. You understand what I'm saying? Huh?
Yeah. Don't fake. We want to fake what the Rishonim, what the Chaim, what the Moroim, what the Poskim.
The Alter Rebbe wilde geben emes lamita. You're saying we want to fake. He wants to give you emes lamita. He's like the name.
Even if we want to do it lo lishma, because we can't do lishma, we want to do.
Say there. But what do you have to deprive yourself from?
You have to develop your own truth.
Yeah.
Like if they used to daven good,
It's not just
good now.
Avada. You should learn Avada. Nothing changes. That's the word. And even the Gil, as he says, all the Giluyim from then continue. But you have to understand, in every generation, what's the sus asher-rachav alav hamelech? In other words, there are many horses out there. You got to find a horse on which the king rides. Haman could have said, take a good horse and put me on and I'll go. No, no, no. I want to... Now, the question is why Haman is the one who's saying this. We'll get to that. Haman min ha-Torah minayin. So this is a deep vart. Where does Haman come to this vart? Okay, we'll soon see in the continuation. But Haman should say, get a good horse. No, no, no. I want sus asher-rachav alav hamelech. I want the horse so the king goes on. What's pshat? There's beautiful horses in the world. There's a lot of great things in the world. We're looking for sus asher-rachav alav hamelech. You're looking for the horse with God, with the Eibishter is. That's going to be one horse. And it could change. Sometimes 9 o'clock in the morning, it's one horse. And then you go into work, and it's a different horse. And you say, no, 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 but I want that. God is here now. This is it. To be able to be toif is that nekuda. To understand, the kavan is always one. It's the same emes. It's the same truth of Einoid Muvadai. But the keli, so to speak, we're calling here the horse a keli. The horse is, so to speak, that vehicle of revelation, right? That vehicle of manifestation, the receptacle, the container, the props, let's call it the props. The props change. The methodology, the way it's communicated, the way it comes out, the circumstances, the realities. The nekuda is the same, it's a lakus. So you need the sus asher-rachav alav hamelech. Sometimes a person says, but last generation, that was the horse. I go back to that horse. God is not on that horse anymore. He changed horses. So you take that horse, yeah? Right? Lahavdil, of course, Caligula appointed a horse in the Senate. He had a horse in the Roman Senate. But he's a that's a dreite mensch. Caligula, the Roman emperor. He took his horse and he put him in the Senate. Al apam val chamasam of the entire Roman Senate, simply to show them that his power is infinite. So sadism and brutality and so forth. Yeah. So there's different ways how people express themselves through horses. You have to distinguish between kedusha and ritzicha. Very important. But the nekuda here is, I take that old horse from yesteryear, where God was, so to speak. Now I decorate it, I bring it into my house, I lift it up, I turn it into the main thing. There's only one problem. Hashem changed horses. He changed horses. You have to know sus asher-rachav alav hamelech.
Interesting.
You got to have the source where the melech is. Where the melech is.
Is he betting on the wrong horse?
Huh? You're betting on the wrong horse. Gewaldig. That's pshat. You're betting on the wrong horse.
It's a continuous process.
It's a continuous process. And sometimes a person himself. That's why Hashem every night goes on a horse.
But why does he start at night? The night is...
You want to know why not by day? It says by day he's making shidduchim. He's playing with the Levyason. Yeah. They say that there was a Yid from a Polish Rebbe. One of the Polish Rebbe is very sharp. So he was once on a train. And he was traveling and he meets a Jew. So Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. And he asks this Jew, "Vas tutte for parnasa?" You know, usually within 2 minutes, the question is, what do you do? Yeah. What do you do for a living? Yeah, right. So he says, "Vas tutte for parnasa?" So he says, "Ich handel mit Pferd." Basically in Yiddish, I'm a horse dealer. A horse trader, yeah. So this Rebbe says, Punkt wie ich. Just like me. So you speak about real horses. Vehicle. The vehicle, yeah. The Merkava, the horse is the vehicle, yeah.
Whole history leads up to Mil's Hasadim. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Now we're there.
Yeah. And in every generation you have everything. It's not like Like he said, it's not like there's no Torah Shabbal Pem by his tradition. There's no Torah. It's always. The question is, what's the main vehicle?
It's by generation or by person?
He says both. He says clearly, it's true generation, but then there's also true in every person and every person himself. He says there's man ve'es prati. There's today and there's tomorrow. There's a week.
I think he's changing the horse at night, so nobody can see.
So after work, it's fine.
Exactly.
It's hidden, it's sealed.
He says nobody should see.
He wants to figure it out.
It's a continuous process.
He wants you to work in the morning. Did he change horse? Didn't he change? Which one did he do?
Yesterday's shiur was amazing. I'm a trauma therapist. And it was just like you said, but you can't negate the husk. The husk you can't throw away because that's keeping you safe. But with trauma therapy is that you go to the sensation and you try to maintain support, that you're supported, that you're okay, that you're slow yourself down, you're not by yourself, you're like connected, and then give you some tools to show that your sensations are just will evaporate. Don't push them away, just welcome them in, just contain them. Don't let them take over your body. Through tools.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so thanks for yesterday. It was really beautiful.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.